Good morning. I've got about 3 minutes of this warm-up, so I figured I might just tell you a little bit about me. So why am I doing the Hunt 1000? That's a good question. I love the idea of MacGyvering, you know. Definition of MacGyvering, pretty much taking what you have and making the best of it and overcoming any obstacles using just whatever you have with you. I love that. And this is real world MacGyvering, and I've already sort of experienced it and I love it. Like when you're on the bike and you know, you're doing the maths about when the next town is, but you know you're probably not going to have enough water, or you find yourself sipping instead of drinking properly because you're subliminally rationing the water that you have. And then you got to start doing the what ifs and how can I fix this? So thinking, reading the maps and going, oh, I'm about to come across a river crossing, or I'm about to do this, or oh, my derailleur just broke. How am I going to fix this so I can limp home the next 150 kilometres? You know? The things that you can do with a couple of cable ties and some blacky tape. And that's what I enjoy, is a little bit of unknown with a little bit of, you know, preparation, the fact that I've decided what I'm going to carry and I feel like that's enough to get me out of any mischief. It's a little bit exciting. And when you get it wrong, you learn something. You can go out, have a great time, and generally, you're going to come home safe and sound with some awesome memories. That's why I'm doing the hunt. Let's see if I can remember the words. Does the regular come with 2 shots of coffee in it?
Yes.
Thanks very much. Already? Let's walk over. I think about 21 and a half. After 5 months of intense training and preparation, the day is finally here. It's day 1 of my journey from Melbourne to Canberra on the Hunt 1000. You couldn't wipe the smile off my face if you tried. The nerves were finally gone and only excitement and anticipation were left. I can't quite explain it, but there's just something about riding your bike in a place you've never ridden before that just feels unreal. The goal today was to ride to Warburton, a fairly easy 106 kilometres with a total elevation of 1660 metres. It was a beautiful blue sky sunny day and not a breath of wind anywhere. I could feel the temperatures starting to climb quick though, so I knew I was in for a pretty hot day ahead.
honestly couldn't have asked for better weather to kick off my first day on the bike. What I hadn't really considered though is during the hottest part of the day I would be arriving at the biggest climb of the day. Panton Gap is a category 3 climb averaging 7% over 5.5 kilometres with a total elevation gain of 400 metres. I had my work cut out for me.
Day 1 hike bike is real. 80 kilometres in, but it's the last hill before Warburton, so 300 metres of elevation. And I'm often walking at anything more than 7%, so. But I'm having so much fun. That's an aqueduct trail. Cool.
The O'Shanassy Aqueduct Trail stretches for 34 kilometres through the Yarra Ranges National Park. This aqueduct was built to supply water to Melbourne. I was surprised to read that for many years bicycles were used to patrol the aqueduct and caretakers received a bicycle allowance of around 75 cents per week. Lanterns were often tied to the front of bikes and some caretakers even tied tools onto their bikes, including rakes and shovels. It is the end of day 1, almost. I've just climbed up the last sort of steep hiker bike section for day 1 and I should be downhill to Warburton now for the night. I was aiming to get into Warburton at 5 o'clock and it's now 5:26. But all in all, like I've really just been taking my time, stopping, eating, having coffees, just really soaking it in and enjoying it. Today has been like thumbs up, Melbourne. Your rail trails and cycle friendly pathways and everything through the city are just next level. I think from the centre of Melbourne to where I am like now, I might have gone through 3 or 4 traffic lights. 30 k's was flat as a tack, just cruising along, watching everyone do their Sunday jogs and everything. I was just having in such a good mood, and there was a little bit of fog, so it was nice and cool. I even put my puff jacket on for like a second just because I was actually getting a bit cool. By the time I stopped for something to eat, about 10 o'clock, I stopped at a cafe. The fog had burnt off and then the blue sky and the sun came out and then it got super hot.
It's so hot!
I am pretty sweaty now, but I have just been climbing up a 450 plus 100 hiker bike, so it's pretty meaty. But overall, I feel like I've eaten and drunk really well today. Second breakfast. Thanks, Mum. I feel like my body, shoulder's a bit niggly, knees a bit niggly. But looking forward to rolling into Warburton for dinner, a couple of beers. Overall, I think it hasn't quite sunk in yet that I am actually doing the Hunt 1000 yet. And I feel like today was just a training ride somewhere I've never been before. So I think the real work begins tomorrow. Right, onwards to Warburton, dinner time, before the mozzies start attacking me. Yeah, and I had a dot watcher join me for about 10 to 15k, so I was about 5 or 10k's from the starting point, like just cruising along minding my own business, and then there was this little old lady that was sitting in a deck chair and she looked straight at me and started clapping and went woo, and I'm like, all right, I'm just assuming you know what I'm doing then. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much, like that's awesome. And then there was this guy, big fella, big beard, like ginger beard, and on an e-bike, and he goes, oh, g'day, I'm Paul from the Bicycle Network. Oh yeah, oh thank you so much. Thank you. He's like, oh, I'm just a cycling enthusiast, I'm a dot watcher, talking about stuff and how he's ridden all the rail trails and pretty much in Melbourne, and so that was totally unexpected but pretty cool. But yeah, the flies are real. Wow, they're everywhere. Feels good to get started. Some K's under my belt. Now it's not 1,000, now it's 900. 895. Today's ride would hopefully have me arriving into a little town called Tanjil Bren for the night. There wasn't too much on Google Street View of the town except for a small picnic shelter, so I wasn't planning on breaking any speed records to get there. On paper, today is shorter in distance than yesterday, but the elevation is a hefty 2,000 metres, so I don't mind getting off my bike every now and then to stretch my legs. Okay, so I have to tell you the story about how I met Joe. Joe's another Hunt 1000 rider. Like me, Joe set off from Melbourne yesterday, although we narrowly missed each other at the start line by about half an hour. Unfortunately, Joe experienced some technical issues with his preloaded route, which had him travelling almost double his intended distance and elevation for the day. Because of this unplanned detour and luckily haste to get back on track, he hadn't realised that he'd completely run out of water while also pushing through the hottest part of the day. Luckily for Joe, a local legend pulled up next to him and offered him some water, and even better, a place to sleep for the night to recover from what was almost definitely severe dehydration. The next morning he managed to get back on the bike and rally for day 2, and as luck would have it, I met up with Joe at the Warburton bakery for breakfast this morning. We decided to ride together until Joe was convinced his navigation device was finally back and playing the game. The heat was real on day 1. I actually crossed paths with another Hunt 1000 rider called Thomas about halfway up the Peyton Gap climb, sitting in the shade. Both of us in no rush and quite happy to stop for a chat to catch our breath. Okay, first roadside mechanical.
You've got a little something on your face.
Day 2, and I can hear myself in my head. One of the things I wanted to add to my spares toolbox was a couple of spare bolts. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and you're like, what do you want to carry spare bolts for? I'm like, it's just added weight. It's like putting rocks in your pocket. Well, I knew this was going to happen. One of my front panniers, there is normally a bolt that sits in this part and keeps it secure. You can see on the other side, and then I've just got a couple of cable ties to give it added support. But that bolt must have just rattled loose or whatever, and then the whole pannier dropped and it was just sagging and bouncing. So I pulled over, and one thing I did remember, because I couldn't justify the weight of the bolts, I did pack a couple of these extra little rubber straps. I think they're called Varley straps. And I've managed to tighten them up, and it is bloody solid. So that'll at least get me to a random bike store. I think I crossed one, maybe Threadbow. An alternative, I might be able to actually pinch one, carry my spares case or something in my saddle roll and pinch the bolts off that. So there's always something. Anyway, that ain't gonna stop me. These glasses have just paid for themselves. So good. One of the things I like about this event is the grand finish concept rather than the more common grand depart. This gives riders the chance to decide their pace and takes away the racing concept. It's great to meet up with other riders as they catch up closer to the finish who might have started days after me.
It is day 3, so morning of day 3 of the Hunt 1000. So mind the you know, 48-hour no shower look. This little barbecue shelter, there was 5 Hunt 1000 riders sleeping under there, and then in this little log cabin over there, there was another 2 Hunt 1000 riders in there. And then we had this toilet block that's got some amazing mural artwork on it. Day 3, feeling really good. It is always a bit of a struggle to get up and put cold, wet, stinky clothes back on. But I tell you what, you just got to push through it for like 20 seconds and then put all your layers on, and eventually your body warmth comes through and it's like that familiar, you know, sweaty feeling, but it's tolerable. So I've got Donna all packed up, ready to go. Like I mentioned yesterday, I had one little small mechanical. I lost that bolt, so I've used a few rubber straps to fix that up. Otherwise, she's holding strong. Feedback from the family was that my spot tracker was really slow to update, and I figure because I've been in some really dense forest, big tall trees and in valleys, GPS signal's pretty crap anyway. I did have it in the back pocket of my backpack, and I've moved it to here, and last night I put it out in direct view of the sky and pressed the check-in button, and it did update my location, so hopefully having it on the back here will be reliable for tracking. We had an absolute good Samaritan act last night. We had a fella called Peter, he came over and he brought over tea, coffee, sugar, cups, milk, everything. It was just such a nice bloke. He come over this morning and he's brought over another cup of a kettle just for our morning coffees. And then, funny story, so in this barbecue shelter there's a couple of lights which happened to stay on all night. And Peter come over this morning, I thought he just sort of touched the button, you know, magically, and I thought he might have fixed it, but it looks like they're still staying on. He's such a good guy, he's going to go talk to the volunteers that look after this place and get it all sorted out. All I can say is I don't know who did the murals on this toilet block, but it is the prettiest toilet block I've ever seen.